People who've had sex with someone with a disability, mental or physical, what was it like? Maybe not disabled per se, but I had a hookup with a gal who was a hemophiliac. Has von Willebrand disease clotting disorder and had a bit of a learning disability. It also happened to be right in the middle of her cycle. She warned me there'd be a little bit of blood, so I figured no big deal and threw a towel down on my bed. Wasn't the worst sex, but I noticed once I got to the bathroom for a quick after sex wipe down that I had blood smeared from the middle of my thighs to the bottom of my pecs. I went back to my room, flicked on the light after a fair warning and assessed the damage. The towel didn't do shit. The mattress was and she was spread out on my bed looking bloodier than a ritualistic sacrifice, with a few crimson handprints on the wall behind her where she braced herself. Said she felt bad. Told me about her blood conditions and that she was going to just get dressed and leave. No. You're covered in blood. Shower first maybe? Well, naturally we had round 2 in the shower. I swear the hot water made the blood feel kinda sticky, which actually felt kinda good, not gonna lie. Being a slob of a bachelor, I just flipped the mattress head to toe and just tried to forget about the stain for a bit. That may be the most vile story I've ever heard in my life. Take your upvote and go. You filthy animal. I dated a little person proportional dwarfism in high school. It wasn't that weird because I'm a short guy, street 5'4", and she was tall for a dwarf at 4'6". So you were like every other tall guy short gal ever. Except relative to everybody else. You know. I've been reading this thread and enjoying the stories, and it took me nearly 10 minutes to realize that this applies to me. My wife is missing an arm from the elbow down. But it's never been something I look at her for or even notice. Right from day one almost 8 years ago. The sex has never been less than spectacular. I'm sure she would argue that lol, and she can do everything any other girl can do in and out of bed. Occasionally she'll be preoccupied with her hand and I'll ask her to grab something without even thinking about it, and she'll say something along the lines of yeah, just let me grow another hand real quick. Or if she's struggling with something and I instinctively ask, hey, do you need a hand? And she'll reply in her driest tone, well, what does it look like? As she waves her nuggie, her term for it, in the air. I dated a blind man for a while. Sex was normal for the most part, one just had to direct him to the right place. That sounds pretty much like every dude ever. Whereas the clitoris isn't ignorance so much as it is a cry for help for this fella. I'm deaf, so it was pretty quiet. I had a boyfriend with high-functioning autism. He was really sweet and kind, but when it came down to sex he used to make me come first. And if he came before I did, he would beat himself up and apologize to me for a full 30 minutes saying how awful he is and how bad of a boyfriend he is. I think the worst part was sometimes he would get lost in thought when having sex with me and he would start to cry. So as we both lay there naked, his dick flaccid inside me, I would have to comfort him until he stopped crying. Pretty good. She was hot. Had some genetic disorder where her joints would dislocate all the time. Meant she was in a wheelchair. Honestly, the judging eyes when we were out on a date was a bit weird, but I ignored it. Other than that, the sex was good. She was a bit freaky. And it seemed her disability didn't affect her in the sack. One night I asked her afterwards if she dislocated during. She said about 80 times, but no biggie for her apparently. She was a really cool girl. That's just something to brag about. Yeah. I f***ed a girl so hard that I dislocated her hips. It might not go over well, but you can still brag about it. Was with a girl with dissociative identity disorder. She had tattoos, and after sex we woke up together still not wearing any clothes. She woke up behaving as if she was about 6 years old and had no idea who I was. After convincing her that she was safe, I took her to the bathroom to see her tattoos in the mirror. She made me promise not to tell her mummy. Fastest way to lose a boner imaginable. I'm a left leg hip disarticulate amputee, no left leg at all, and 60% of the muscle has been removed from my right. I can answer this question from the other side if anyone cares. Also, my dick is factually longer than my left leg. Ladies, because of my disabilities, I can't really do a lot of traditional positions. Either she's on top or we can try sideways. But that hasn't really worked out yet. On top works fine. If just a bit painful due to the injuries in my hip. I've learned how to give very good oral, and I can usually help my partner achieve a few orgasms with my fingers. Oral plays a bigger role because it won't cause any pain, so I make sure to give just as good as I get. Before my accident, I used to like being a rough and savage lover. I can't do much of that anymore. But my upper body works just fine. And I can still tug hair, bite necks and grip tightly. There's still passion, but also more rules. In college, I dated a girl who has lost both legs from the knee down. She wore prosthetics, and most of the time you couldn't really tell unless you looked closely at her legs. We had a conversation with some friends between classes one day about how someone in socks and underwear looks their worst. So always take your socks off before you take your pants off. A few days later, we were getting sexy in her dorm and I pointed out to her that she still had her socks on after taking her pants off. Apparently this didn't count, since her socks were on her feet on the other side of the room. Isn't there an issue with legality of sex with mentally disabled people regarding consent? I honestly am curious. I don't know. There are legal issues, but many probably people with mental illnesses can make informed consent. I thought this article was very good. Sexual autonomy rights of the mentally ill. Deaf girls can't control the volume of their voice. I could never look my neighbors in the eye again. Just wanna put my 2 cents in this one. Since I'm disabled, I have a lung condition, so giving back to a partner is difficult, but I always try my best to please them. Any partner I've had always been afraid to hurt me. I'm an adult, I'll tell you, when you've taken things too far, and apart from not really being able to go on top, I can do anything any other normal girl can do. Can you wear a sailor hat while we are both in a bath filled with Pepto-Bismol, and I clip your toenails while you shave my buttocks? Are you serious? Do you know how much Pepto that would take? Approximately 1 bathtub. Briefly dated a Swiss girl with cerebral palsy. The only thing it seemed to affect was speech a bit in one arm. I called her my little velociraptor because of how she held that hand. I had sex with a deaf girl from Tinder. We were texting for a few days when she told me she was deaf before we were going to meet up. I decided I'd be cool with it because it. I'll try anything once. Also, she was hot. During our date we had to text each other the entire time since I can't sign, and basically it was easier for me to drop sexual innuendos. The date ended up us going back to mine, and one thing led to another, and we had sex. When I was about to finish, I wasn't sure what I was going to do since I couldn't tell her, and I definitely wasn't going to stop mid-thrust and text her. I just kept going and finished inside the condom while we were going at it missionary, and I guess she could feel that I had finished. It was weird, she didn't really make any noise during sex. Not bad. Just unique, I guess. Nothing else was too different from the times I've dated, except communication was slower since it was entirely through texting. Well, my girlfriend doesn't make any noise either during sex, and she's not deaf. Wound up dating a girl I'd known forever through other friends. After a few months, we're lying in bed, and the light's hitting her face just right, and I notice a scratch on her contact lens. I tell her and she asks what contact lens. I move her head a bit, to confirm what I'm seeing, and then she starts laughing hard. It turns out she's got a full-on prosthetic eye. She apologizes, as normally she brings it up much sooner, but as she's got the good one that's tied to eye muscles, it just looked like an eye. After a few moments, so many odd little behavioral things I'd wondered about made sense. Why she liked to be on my right when we walked. Why she got quiet while driving, right eye is prosthetic, so I'm just not visible, etc. We had a good laugh about it, and then got back to business. I had sex with a girl with no legs once. All those positions you wanted to try but legs got in the way. Gone. The best time without a doubt is her on top while I spun her around. It worked waay better than you'd imagine. 10 out of 10 would again. All those positions you wanted to try but legs got in the way. Gone. You sound like Billy Mays introducing a new product. Billy Mays here for amputees. Quote. She was a really close friend, and she had lost an arm below the elbow in a car crash years before, and no one asked her to a school dance. I wasn't planning on going no techno, but when I heard she didn't have a date, I asked her if she would like me to take her. She said yes, so we did the whole pick up from her house thing. An older friend offered to drive us, and when I knocked, her mom nearly squeezed me to death, and her dad thanked me and shook my hand in what was probably my first "you're a man, son" handshake. She was stunning. Gorgeous hair. Amazing dress. And I had no idea her boobs were that awesome, cause she tended to dress fairly conservatively. Went to dance. Had fun. Went to an after party at a farmhouse, owned by a friend's dad. A barrister in London, so not really a farm. More small mansion. And there were lots of empty bedrooms. She took me to one about 5 minutes after getting to the after party and asked me if I wanted to have sex. I said yes. She was hot as I was a teenager, and I honestly don't remember even thinking about the missing arm while or afterwards. Sex was awesome. 10 out of 10 would her again. Had sex on and off for a year until I moved away. Still remember her very fondly. You're a man, son. I will be after tonight, sir.